Srila Prabhupada ki, founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki. Jayam Shripad Paramahansa Parvakacharya Satishi Mata Divine Grace to the Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki. Ananta Kota Bhakta Vrinda ki. Prema Guru Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadara Shvasti Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinata Sham Kudu Radhikani Yoda ki. Jamuna Mai ki. Mai Pradami ki. Dami ki. Vrindavan Dami ki. Tulsi Maharani ki. Bhakti Devi ki. Sankirtan Jaga ki. Transcendental Book Distribution ki. Transcendental Prasad Distribution ki. Harinam Sankirtan ki. Shri Jagannath Balaram Subhadra ki. Shri Gauri Thai ki. Shri Radha Shamsundar ki. Samveda Bhakti Vrinda ki. All glorious seven devotees. All glorious seven devotees. All glorious seven devotees. All glories of Shri Shri Guru and Gaura. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Nayanam Namaskita Naram Chararatam Devyam Sarasvatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudurayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the personality of Godhead Narayan, and to Narayana Rishi, the supremest human being, and to Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Sri Rasadeva, the altar. Naste Paresha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam, and by rendering a service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Today we are reading text which? 60 and 61, right? Or 60 only? 59 and 60. 59. Etate sarva akyatam. Huh? Oh, 60, sorry. Etap surabhishcha charitam murarer. Gadanam sadvala jaimanam cha. Yakte taradrupam ajorv abhishtavam. Shinvam grinamiti naro kilartam. Ete suribisharitam murarer. Agardanam sadvala jaimanam cha. Vyaktarad rupam ajorva bishtavam. Shinvam ganam iti naro kilartam. Ete etat suribhischaritam murarer Gardanam sadvala jamanam cha Vyaktarad rupamajor abhishtavam Shivam gunam iti naro kilartam Mataji? Etat, these, Suribi, along with the cowherd friends, Charitam, pastimes, Murare, the Lord Murari, Aga Ardhanam, the subduing of the demon Agasura, Sadvala, on the grass in the forest, Jamanam, the taking of lunch, Cha, and Vyakta Itarat, supramundane, Rupam, the transcendental form of the Lord, Aja, by Lord Brahma, Uru, elaborate, Abhistavam, the offering of prayers, Shunvam, hearing, Grinam, chanting, Iti, attains, Naraha, any person, Akila Artan, all desirable things. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Any person who hears or chants these pastimes Lord Murari performed, with his cowherd friends, the killing of Agasura, the taking of lunch on the forest grass, the Lord's manifestation of transcendental forms, and the wonderful prayers offered by Lord Brahma, is sure to achieve all his spiritual desires. Read the purport.
श्री सनातन गोस्वामी के अनुसार भगवान कृष्ण की लीलाओं को सुनने तथा उनका कीर्तन करने के प्रति मात्र प्रवृत्ति रखने वाला व्यक्ति भी आध्यात्मिक सिद्धि प्राप्त करेगा। कृष्ण भावनामृत के प्रचार प्रसार में तन्मयता से लगे बहुत से भक्तगण प्रायः इतने व्यस्त रहते हैं कि वे जी भरकर भगवान की लीलाओं का कीर्तन का श्रवण नहीं कर पाते, किंतु केवल भगवान कृष्ण का सदैव कीर्तन एवं श्रवण करने की प्रबल इच्छा के कारण वे आध्यात्मिक सिद्धि लाभ करेंगे। किंतु जहाँ तक संभव हो भगवान की इन दिव्य लीलाओं का वास्तविक उच्चारण करना चाहिए।
Text 61. Evam Varai Komarai. Oh, just do 60. Okay, that's it.
59.
Oh, 5960. Okay, fine. So we'll now do 59. Okay, sorry. Omaganatam Nandasya Ganagana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Jainatasmai Shri Gurev Namaha. Are for my humble obeisances to the lotus feet of my spiritual master, to open my eyes blinded by the darkness of ignorance with the torchlight of knowledge. They know. Everyone knows. Okay, so this verse is a great relief to those of us who are resisting the transcendental service of the Lord.
यह श्लोक है बहुत आराम देने वाला है उन लोगों के लिए जो भगवान की दिव्य सेवा करने में हिचकिचाते हैं।
Isn't it? Prabhupada in the purport gives us a pass. A pass.
प्रभुपाद जी तात्पर्य में हमें एक छूट दे रहे हैं।
Simply by the intense desire to always hear and chant. At least it appears to be letting up on the accelerator. He appears to be letting up on the accelerator of pushing us further and further into complete submission.
ऐसा प्रतीत हो रहा है कि प्रभुपाद जी हमें छूट दे रहे हैं कि पूर्ण रूप से हम नहीं लगेंगे तो भी चल जाएगा।
Assuring us that just that desire to hear is enough to fulfill all of our spiritual desires.
आश्वासन दे रहे हैं कि केवल यह तीव्र इच्छा भगवान के बारे में सुनने की हमें पूर्ण सिद्धि प्रदान करेगा।
At the end of all the purports in the Krishna book, it's Srila Prabhupada states,
प्रभुपाद जी कृष्ण पुस्तक के अध्याय के अंत में कहते हैं
that anyone who hears these pastimes will attain the highest goal.
कोई भी व्यक्ति भगवान की दिव्य लीलाओं का श्रवण करेगा वह पूर्ण सिद्धि प्राप्त करेगा।
So how does that actually work?
तो यह कैसे कार्य करता है?
And what is Shravana?
श्रवण का अर्थ क्या होता है?
For example, if a person is hard of hearing, Shravanam is different for them than it is a person with perfect hearing.
तो यदि कोई व्यक्ति बहरा है उसके लिए श्रवण की विधि अलग होगी बजाय उसके जो सही रूप से सुन सकता है इससे।
That's a material example of how there's different types of hearing. When we think of Shravanam, it's just not the words being repeated into our ear. But it's how they land in the mind. Just like if you have a glass of dirty water. So you add clear water to the dirty water. It still remains quite dirty. You have to keep pouring the clear water into the glass to eventually take out all the impurities.
आपको शुद्ध जल उसमें डालते रहना होगा ताकि सारे मलिनता निकल जाए।
So hearing is like that.
श्रवण भी उसी प्रकार से है।
Right at the beginning of devotional service, the mind is very polluted.
भक्ति के शुरुआत में हमारा मन बहुत दूषित होता है।
It hasn't been cleaned by the action of the holy names.
भगवान के प्रभाव से शुद्ध बनना अलग होता है।
And although it hears the words,
नामों को सुनता है,
they don't penetrate very deeply.
बहुत गहराई से प्रवेश नहीं कर पाते।
Because the mind is not clear.
क्योंकि मन स्वच्छ नहीं है।
And those words are not able to descend into the heart.
और ये शब्द जो है हमारे हृदय तक नहीं पहुंच पाते।
So Shravanam means something different according to your advancement in Krishna consciousness.
तो श्रवण का अलग-अलग अर्थ होता है व्यक्ति की आध्यात्मिक उन्नति के अनुसार।
Chaito Darpana Marjana, we have to cleanse the heart.
हृदय की शुद्धि करनी है।
So in an initiation lecture in 1975,
1975 के दीक्षा समारोह के लेक्चर में
Srila Prabhupada says, the most important item is Shravanam.
सबसे महत्वपूर्ण अंग जो है वो है श्रवण।
If you do not do anything else,
यदि आप और कुछ नहीं करते,
you simply sincerely hear about God,
लेकिन यदि आप पूर्ण गंभीरता से भगवान के बारे में श्रवण करते हैं,
then gradually, note the word gradually you will be Krishna conscious.
तो धीरे-धीरे इस शब्द पे ध्यान देने की आवश्यकता है। धीरे-धीरे आप कृष्ण भावना भावित हो जाएंगे।
We know that King Parikshit sat and listened to the words of Sukadev Goswami for 7 days.
हम जानते हैं कि परीक्षित महाराज 7 दिन के लिए बैठकर सुखदेव गोस्वामी से श्रवण किए।
And he became fully realized after hearing the nectarian pastimes of Krishna in the Srimad Bhagavatam.
भगवान के अमृतमयी लीलाओं का श्रवण करने से वो पूर्ण साक्षात्कार को प्राप्त हुए।
But I can share from practical experience
लेकिन हम अपने व्यावहारिक अनुभव से देख सकते हैं
that even I listened to the Srimad Bhagavatam in my mind directly from Prabhupada's original translations and purports.
यदि हम प्रभुपाद द्वारा दिए गए जो डिक्टेशन है उनको डायरेक्ट श्रवण भी करते हैं भागवतम के लिए,
I am far away from developing pure love of God.
तो भी हम बहुत दूर हैं भगवान के प्रति शुद्ध प्रेम जागृत करने की अवस्था से।
Because my listening is different.
क्योंकि मेरा श्रवण अलग है।
I'll give some material example.
मैं एक भौतिक उदाहरण देता हूँ।
I have a friend who can listen to any song
मेरा एक मित्र है जो किसी भी भौतिक गान को सुन सकता है।
and he can pick out every word.
एक शब्द समझता है उसका।
Not only does he pick out every word, he remembers every word.
ना केवल वो एक शब्द को सही से सुन पाता है, उसको स्मरण भी कर पाता है।
He has such a talent for hearing.
उसका श्रवण का इतना प्रतिभा है।
But I've been preaching to him for over 30 years.
लेकिन मैं उसे 30 वर्षों से प्रचार कर रहा हूँ।
He still cannot understand the full purport of Srila Prabhupada's instructions.
फिर भी वो प्रभुपाद के तात्पर्यों का अर्थ नहीं समझ पा रहा है।
So when we speak about hearing, we're not talking about a hearing test.
जब हम श्रवण की बात करते हैं, ऐसा नहीं कि हम सुनने की क्षमता पे बात कर रहे हैं।
We're speaking about internal hearing.
हम आंतरिक श्रवण की बात कर रहे हैं।
You know, the principle of purification is present in all the pastimes of Krishna's devotees. The principle of purification is present in all the pastimes of Krishna's devotees.
तो भगवान के भक्तों की कोई भी लीला हो उसमें शुद्धिकरण का सिद्धांत सम्मिलित है।
For example, Ajamil.
अजामिल का उदाहरण जैसे है
even though he pronounced the word Narayan, Narayan at the time of his impending death.
हालांकि उसने मृत्यु के समय में नारायण नारायण उच्चारण किया.
He didn't go back to Godhead immediately.
तुरंत भगवत नाम नहीं गए.
He got an opportunity to continue to stay in that body and purify himself.
उसको एक अवसर मिला उस शरीर में और निवास करने का और अपना शुद्धिकरण करने का. Because
his Shravanam and Kirtanam were contaminated. And he, before he married that prostitute, he was a Pakka Brahman. So the principle is that hearing has many shades of gray. And it's only by the mercy of the holy name that we actually begin to hear more deeply. And what's really interesting, at different times of your life, you hear differently. For example, when I first listened to Bhagavad Gita, the words went right into my heart. They resonated with every cell in my body. I went to the temple in Chicago in 1971. I sat for the first time meeting devotees. My first time meeting devotees. They were just beginning a Bhagavad Gita class from chapter 2. I was curious, inquisitive, because I had been given a Back to Godhead magazine. And I loved the picture of Krishna on the cover. I come from the flower generation, flower child generation. Peace and love. Peace and love. So what more beautiful than Krishna surrounded by flowers and peacocks and his beautiful form. How it was set in a gorgeous garden. And this was spiritual life. It fit everything into the hippie culture. So my curiosity and attraction brought me to this little apartment. I knew nothing of the philosophy. Zero. So I sat to listen. There was only 3 devotees in Chicago. All of them were new. But they were older than I was. And I listened to this wisdom from the 2nd chapter, Bhagavad Gita. And at that time in my life, those words of Krishna, they didn't go into my ears, they didn't go into my head. They made a direct entrance in my heart. And when it was time to go home, I didn't want to go home.
मैं घर नहीं जाना चाहता हूँ।
I wondered why my parents did not teach me this great wisdom.
मेरे माता पिता ने ये मुझे महान ज्ञान क्यों नहीं बताया?
And I stayed at the temple.
और मैं मंदिर में ही रहना चाहता हूँ।
And I never left.
और मैं कभी छोड़कर नहीं गया।
This is the power of hearing.
ये है श्रवण का प्रभाव।
But it's not always like that.
लेकिन हर समय यह ऐसा नहीं होता।
I'll give you a material example.
आपको मैं दूसरा उदाहरण बताना चाहता हूँ।
Everyone here sleeps.
हर कोई यहाँ सोता है।
So many noises are there going on while you're sleeping.
इस समय आप सोते हैं उस समय कई सारी आवाजें होती रहती हैं।
But you do not receive it.
लेकिन आप उनको नहीं सुनते।
You do not wake up.
आप जगते नहीं उनको सुनते।
People have died in homes where there's fires
लोग घर की अग्नि में मर गए हैं
because they didn't hear it.
क्योंकि उनको सुनाई नहीं दिया।
So in your devotional life, there will be times when you hear things much more acutely than other times.
तो आपकी भक्ति में सेवा में ऐसे समय होंगे जिस समय आप बहुत गहराई से श्रवण करते हैं।
Because consciousness rises and consciousness falls, and consciousness goes up and goes down, up and down.
क्योंकि चेतना लहर की तरह कभी ऊपर कभी नीचे कभी ऊपर कभी नीचे इस तरीके से होती है।
Am I right? You hear things more clearly sometimes and sometimes than others? Is that your experience, isn't it?
तो क्या आप लोगों का यही अनुभव है कि कभी आप गहराई से श्रवण कर पाते हैं कभी नहीं?
So in this lecture, the initiation lecture, Prabhupada says,
तो दीक्षा समारोह के लेक्चर में
the students go to school
छात्र विद्यालय जाते हैं
and they hear from the professor,
और वे शिक्षक से सुनते हैं
and gradually he becomes learned in that subject matter.
और धीरे-धीरे उस विषय में वो पारंगत हो जाते हैं।
Again, Prabhupada uses the word gradually.
इससे प्रभाव में शब्द उपयोग किए धीरे-धीरे।
It's an accumulative process, building on each time you learn something, even if it's the same piece of information.
उन्हें धीरे-धीरे वृद्धि होती है। आप वही चीज भी बार-बार सुनते हैं तो भी उसमें कुछ न कुछ वृद्धि होती है।
And then there's the question of the professor.
और फिर प्रश्न उठता है उस शिक्षक का।
How advanced is he in the knowledge?
वो शिक्षक कितना उन्नत है उस ज्ञान में?
Not only how advanced in the knowledge, but how good is he at transmitting the knowledge?
ना केवल वो उस ज्ञान में कितना पारंगत है, दूसरा प्रश्न यह भी है कि दूसरों को बताने में वो कितना निपुण है।
My training in Krishna consciousness was to basically present Prabhupada.
मेरा प्रशिक्षण कार्य यह था कि प्रभुपाद की शिक्षाओं को कैसे प्रस्तुत किया जाए।
His words had the potency.
उनके शब्दों में शक्ति है।
Prabhupada advised us when distributing books
प्रभुपाद जी ने हमें सुझाव दिया पुस्तक वितरण के समय
don't spend much time preaching.
ज़्यादा समय प्रचार में मत लगाओ।
Just give them the book
केवल उनको पुस्तक दो
and let the book do the preaching.
पुस्तक को प्रचार करने दो।
That's always been my understanding.
यह मेरी हमेशा समझ रही है।
I was, myself and so many others were very upset when the books got changed. Books got changed.
मैं बहुत दुखी थे जब पुस्तकों में परिवर्तन हुआ।
Actually, your Gujarati Bhagavad Gita is not the same Bhagavad Gita that I heard from.
आपकी जो गुजराती भगवत गीता है वही भगवत गीता नहीं है जिसको मैंने पढ़ा।
First, it's gone through editing by Jayadvaita Swami.
पहला संशोधन श्रीमद् जयद्वैत स्वामी महाराज ने किया।
Then it's gone through the mind of the translator.
जो अनुवादक है उसके मन से भी गुजरा।
somehow the knowledge is so potent that it still gets through. But frankly, there's no substitute for actually getting it as Srila Prabhupada presented it in English in the Macmillan edition. Prabhupada was adamant that nothing be changed. He said simply errors and omissions. Errors and omissions only. So what else he said in this very important initiation lecture? For spiritual understanding, we have to use this ear. Shruti means to receive the knowledge by hearing. So if one gives oral reception of spiritual knowledge through authorized person, then he relishes taste in spiritual life. Relishes taste in spiritual life. That's the process. It doesn't come immediately. So when Prabhupada promises that you will attain all of your spiritual desires upon hearing this pastime of Krishna and the cowherd boys, such a statement must be understood in the context of everything else Prabhupada has said. Otherwise, people take such a statement very cheaply. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Prabhupada said, in Madhya-lila 19:155, by the grace of the spiritual master and Krishna, one nourishes the bhakti lata by regularly sprinkling it with the water of Shravanam Kirtan. In this way, the seed of the bhakti lata sprouts and grows up through the whole universe until it penetrates the covering of the material existence and reaches the spiritual world. Again, we are nourishing by Shravanam and Kirtan. We're watering that bhakti lata. But along with the bhakti lata, that watering also produces weeds. And what are those weeds? Weeds such as pratishta, desire for profit, adoration, love. And those weeds can choke the bhakti lata. So how to be a good gardener?
से माटी को कैसे बन सकते हैं?
You must cut down those weeds.
खरपतवारों को काटना होगा।
And what is the scythe? You know what is a scythe? The machete. The thing you use to cut what? Rice.
तो चावल को काटने के लिए जो उपयोग होता है,
What is the sword that you use?
वो औजार क्या है यहाँ पर भक्ति के संदर्भ में?
Rajavijay. Rajavijay.
औजार खरपतवार को काटने के लिए।
Knowledge. The International Society for Krishna Consciousness disseminates education.
अंतर्राष्ट्रीय कृष्ण भावना संघ जो है वो ज्ञान का वितरण करता है
Through the process of Shravanam Kirtan.
श्रवण कीर्तन के माध्यम से।
And that's our main business.
यही हमारा मुख्य व्यापार है।
Because when Prabhupada was asked, why do we chant out loud? Yeah, why do we chant so it can be heard? Not only did he say it was because we engaged our ears, but it was for the benefit of all living beings who heard the sound vibration. And this is our process. Prabhupada also says in the Nectar of Instruction, text 8, in the neophyte stage, one should always engage in hearing Krishna Katha. This is called Shravanam Das. Just like we are all Das, this is known as Shravanam Das. By constantly hearing the transcendental holy name of Krishna, notice, constantly hearing, not just one time. And hearing of his transcendental form and qualities and pastimes, one can attain to the stage of acceptance called Varanadas. When one attains this stage, he becomes attached to hearing Krishna Katha. How attached are you to hearing Krishna Katha? How often do we look to the news for entertainment? Or speak pajalpa about this devotee or that devotee? This is a symptom that we're not so attached to Krishna Katha. When you go to Vrindavan or Govardhan, you meet many Babajis, even Western Babajis, and devotees of Krishna. And all they want to do is talk Krishna Katha. When I meet these people, I realize I am so fallen. I am so fallen. Because they grew up in the West also, some of them. But they only want to hear about Krishna. And they can't stop talking about Krishna. It's a beautiful thing. So then when one is able to, when one attains the stage, when one is able to chant in ecstasy, he attains the stage of Smarnavasta. The stage of remembering. Often I have many dreams at times. And very, very rarely do I have a dream about devotees or Krishna. And I think to myself, I'm not hearing enough. It's not penetrating into my consciousness. I still remain so unpurified. And then I get a little depressed. I've been practicing so many years, but still I'm not good at this. Just like I sing the prayers so many years, my mind still gets confused when I'm in front of so many people. It makes me a little humble, but also disappointed. Why am I not making progress more quickly? And I only can think, Krishna does not want me to get puffed up. This pride, this pratishta, this is the greatest enemy of our spiritual advancement. So I wanted to share with you the fact that those of you who are attached to hearing and chanting about the Lord and nothing else, it's your job to inspire those of us who are not so advanced. Because that's the stage to which we aspire. As Prabhupada says in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila 19:152, to live with devotees or to live in a temple means to associate with the Shravana Kirtan process. Sometimes neophyte devotees think that they can continue the Shravana Kirtan process without worshipping the deity. But the execution of such Shravan Kirtan is meant for highly developed devotees, like Haridas Thakur, who engaged in Shravan Kirtan process without worshipping the deities. Think about that. Haridas Thakur is an incarnation of Lord Brahma. I'm not sure any of my godbrothers are incarnations of such elevated characters. But certainly we have some very advanced Vaishnavas. And taking shelter of them is our only hope to make further advancement in spiritual life. And many of them are not gurus, initiating gurus. You can find them on the web, so many very advanced souls. Personally, when I find such a person, it's like an oasis in a desert. Especially those who are very conversant with the pastimes of the Lord. Especially those who are very conversant with the pastimes of the Lord. So if you want to advance further through your Shravanam, find those people to whom you can hear very clearly, very intently. And surely all of your anarthas will fly away in due course of time. So maybe there's some questions or comments.
Sometimes we are very selective. I want to hear from this devotee, or sometimes we ask who is giving Bhagvatam Class today. Oh, this is a new devotee, he is giving Bhagvatam Class. So we like some speakers, we don't want to hear some speakers. So this selective tendency, is this okay? It is not okay. How to overcome this tendency to be selective and hear?
Great question.
हमारे अंदर कई बार प्रवृत्ति होती है, हम पूछते हैं आज की भागवतम कक्षा किसके द्वारा, किसी को हम सुनना पसंद करते हैं और कुछ नए भक्त होते हैं हम उनको नहीं सुनेंगे, तो ये प्रवृत्ति सही है कि गलत है?
Very simple answer. But I'm going to preface your answer with something that will give you a measure of how to gauge whether a devotee is worth listening to. When you're advanced in Shravanam, when you're advancing in Shravanam, there are achievements that you can look forward to. You can become fearless. You're becoming more fearless, free of lamentation, more tolerant and dhira, undisturbed. You feel more resolute in your purpose. A feeling of being transcendental to the three modes arises. You experience peacefulness and happiness hearing from that devotee. So these are all symptoms of hearing from a, if not 100% pure voice, someone who's very advanced. Now each of us are different. We have different bodies, different backgrounds, even some of us have different desires. So when it comes to a Bhagvatam speaker,
जब कोई भागवत प्रवक्ता की बात आती है,
one size does not fit all.
एक प्रकार का व्यक्ति सभी के लिए उपयुक्त नहीं हो सकता है।
And there's only one person who can discriminate what is good for you and what is not good for you.
एक ही व्यक्ति है जो आपके लिए निर्णय ले सकता है कि आपके लिए अच्छा है क्या बुरा।
Because the overarching instruction for advancement in Krishna consciousness
तो कृष्ण भावना में उन्नति के लिए जो सबसे महत्वपूर्ण निर्देश यह है
is to accept what is favorable and reject what is unfavorable.
तो प्रकृति के लिए अनुकूल है इसको स्वीकार करना और इसके प्रतिकूल वस्तु का त्याग करना।
And there's only two people that can do that. Two people that can do that.
दो व्यक्ति ऐसा कर सकते हैं,
You and your spiritual master.
और आपके आध्यात्मिक गुरु।
And if you haven't chosen a spiritual master,
और यदि आपने किसी आध्यात्मिक गुरु का चयन कर लिया है,
it's just you. It all comes down to you.
तो यह सब आपका निर्णय है।
You are responsible for your own Krishna consciousness.
आप अपने कृष्ण भावना के लिए उत्तरदायी हैं।
As we say, it's obvious. You're here because you choose to be here.
आप यहाँ नहीं क्योंकि आपने यह निर्णय लिया है।
When my mother wrote to Srila Prabhupada many letters,
मेरी माता जी ने प्रभुपाद जी को बहुत सारे पत्र लिखे,
telling him to send me home,
पत्र में लिखती थी कि मुझे वापस घर भेज दें।
Prabhupada wrote back to her.
प्रभुपाद जी ने उनको उत्तर में लिखा।
He said,
प्रभुपाद जी ने कहा,
we do not force anyone
हम किसी को बलपूर्वक नहीं रखते,
to stay,
यहाँ रखने के लिए बल नहीं करते,
nor do we force anyone to leave.
ना ही किसी को बलपूर्वक छोड़ने के लिए कहते हैं।
Your son is an adult.
आपके पुत्र वयस्क हैं,
He can do as he wishes.
वो जो चाहे कर सकते हैं।
You are an adult.
आप भी वयस्क हैं।
If someone's giving Bhagvatam class that doesn't resonate with you as a good source,
कोई भागवत कक्षा दे रहा है और आपके साथ उसका समन्वय नहीं हो पा रहा है,
you have the choice not to be there.
सॉरी से वहाँ नहीं होगी।
You know better what's best for you.
आप जानते हैं कि आपके लिए क्या अच्छा विकल्प है।
You know what. Now, one can say,
तो कोई कह सकता है,
oh, everybody needs to, in the beginning, the neophyte needs to be directed and controlled. Controlled.
कोई कह सकता है कि आगंतुक को शुरू में नियंत्रण और उसको कोई निर्देशन देने वाला चाहिए होता है।
But one of the nice things about the Baroda Mandir and community, here, yeah, Baroda,
और संस्कृत की एक खास बात यह है
is that nobody is really forcing you to serve.
आपको कोई भी जबरदस्ती सेवा नहीं करवा रहा।
Some temples are run like an army. You have to, do this, and they take attendance at the morning program, and it's very rigid.
कुछ मंदिरों में सेवा के जैसा अनुशासन है कि वो अटेंडेंस लेते हैं, सुबह आए कि नहीं आए, सेवा के लिए नियंत्रित किया जाता है।
Do you feel that here? It's it's a very advanced way of managing.
ये बहुत उन्नत तरीका है।
It may not always look the most orderly way, but it's actually the best way.
ये संगठित प्रशासन हो सकता है, गति नहीं हो, लेकिन सबसे अच्छा तरीका है।
Because it's management by inspiration and voluntary service.
क्योंकि यह व्यवस्थापन जो है वो प्रेरणा देकर और स्वेच्छा से किया जाने वाला है।
There's a saying by a great American patriot. Give me liberty or give me death. The soul wants to be free. Free to choose to serve. And the greatest gift that Krishna has given all of his parts and parcels is the freedom to choose Krishna or Maya. So Krishna never forces us. He encourages us. He inspires us. He provides for us. He makes things in the material world very difficult. But he never forces us. And that's how good management is. It doesn't force, it inspires. So that we can remain taking as the shravanam from those who we can be inspired from. I don't go, there's certain people I don't want to hear from. So, I can do other things during the Bhagvatam class. I can do other things during Bhagvatam class. And I think that that's a standard, at least amongst my God brothers and God sisters. We pick and choose who's worthy to hear from. And it's not always what they say. It may be tied in with how they treat people. It may be tied in with how they are treating devotees. Everyone has a vibration. You have to pick up on their vibration. And see whether or not you resonate with them. Because your advancement is up to you. And there's no shame in not listening to some and wanting to listen to others. You can always crack open a Bhagavatam and listen to Prabhupada directly. And there's a lot of speculation that comes from behind on this Vyasasan also, and you have to discriminate. So you all have big responsibilities. More than we have. Because during Prabhupada's presence, there was much more Prabhupada's words, Prabhupada's instructions being given. In the Bhagvatam class. But there was also a lot of nonsense going on. And it was a very difficult lesson to learn to discriminate who was someone you wanted to hear from and who wasn't. So learn from our generation.
हमारी जनरेशन से सीखना चाहिए.
Be careful and discriminate.
तो सावधान रहिए, विश्लेषण करिए.
Does that answer your question?
आपके प्रश्न का उत्तर कर प्राप्त हुआ.
We have one more question, then I think it's too late now. One more question.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
There is ups and downs in our Krishna consciousness. What is the reason behind that and how can we overcome that? तो हमारी कृष्ण चेतना में उतार चढ़ाव आते हैं, उसके पीछे क्या कारण है और कैसे हम उससे पार कर सकते हैं?
Well, the three modes of nature are always changing.
प्रकृति में तीन गुण हमेशा बदल रहे हैं.
We just had a flood. Everyone had to deal with the flood. So their consciousness was about how do I survive? It wasn't so much like, oh look, the rain. It's just like Lord Indra when he, when the Sarvata cloud came to Vrindavan. Who had time to think like that? We're worried about flooding in the basement and will the animals be drowned? That's why we have what's called the Brahma Muhurta hour. Modes of nature are subdued. Good time to chant, good time to worship. So you can see, just in real life, that the modes of nature are affecting our consciousness. When you are in acute pain, it's impossible to chant. Your mind just wants to be distracted, get away from the pain. What about when you're in war? You're at war. You're a soldier and you're fighting in a war. How are you able to spend your time thinking about Krishna during an ambush by the enemy? We just rely on Krishna. Please remember all the sacrifices I've made for you. And at the time of death, it's very difficult to remember Krishna. Your whole life is flashing in front of you. You're retreating from your body. You're floating in your astral body. How to remember Krishna unless you have a whole life just immersed in Krishna consciousness? And nobody has that 100%. We all have to take care of our body. We all have to evacuate, clean it, tend to it. So the answer is that you'll never, while in this body, you will always have to deal with waves of material nature, of the three modes. The idea is simple living, high thinking. Simple does not mean nothing, it means you still have to take care of things. But reduce one's burden of material desires. Prabhupada says, yes, if you can remain brahmachari, that is best. But if not, get married in Krishna consciousness. You can still attain perfection, but it's more difficult. Does that answer your question? Very good. So thank you for listening to me. I apologize. I'm not the greatest scholar. My only claim to qualifying to speak to you that I have survived 54 years in ISKCON. And that's an achievement. So thank you very much. Karatara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki. Hari Hari. Okay. Okay. Thank you for translating. Was it okay?